All right, we have quite the collection. Um, I don't see Grob, so Xavier, you may be point.
Yep. Okay. Let's get this party started then. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the best practices for open source developers working group session. Let me, if you don't yet have access to the agenda, let me quickly put it in the chat. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I put the agenda in the chat, so please add yourself to the list of attendees for the date of today. And we will start as usual with a short presentation of new attendees. So if someone here is new, please unmute yourself and present yourself.
Hey, I am Joshua Mulliken. I work at Red Hat. I'm a security architect. Great to be here.
Welcome, Joshua.
Hey, my name is Christine Abernathy. I work at F5, leading the open source program office there.
Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
Any new?
Hey, this is Mohan. I'm part of Wipro open source program office, and I'm a solution architect.
I'm Mohan.
Hi, I'm Jack Kelly. I'm a infrastructure engineer at Control Plane. I join most of the other OpenSSF calls just to listen in. So it's good to be here. And it's nice to see a fellow Jay Kelly.
Welcome, Jack. Any other newcomer? No. Well, okay. Well, welcome, new fans. I hope you will find a nice place here for discussions about best practices for open source developers. Yeah, call for someone to willing to scribe for the meeting. Is anyone able to jump on the dock and take notes?
I will help, but I'm the instigator for several of these things, and I find it hard to type and chew gum, or in this case, speak simultaneously. So
yeah,
if others can give a hand, that'd be great.
When you will speak, I will write, David. If that's okay. Okay, cool. Let's do that. So if any of you have something that they want to talk about, please list the new items in the agenda. Okay, so you have access to the agenda. Let me put it again in the chat for anyone just join. Okay, so put the list of items that you would like to discuss in the agenda, and then we will go to it. And then we will start with the working group charter. We need to review it, to debate it, and eventually to get approval on this charter. So does anyone have already reviewed it? Have some comment about it?
I didn't really review it yet. I'm just reading through it now. I'm just wondering how it would work, for example, in case of a project like myself, the SKF, which is actually part of two open source communities, right? The OWASP and as well the OpenSSF. Yeah, it is a bit, I think, conflicting with our, and when I mean our, the OWASP community assets, the intellectual property policy, etc. And I also don't see really any, so far, I didn't really read it that well, but I don't see any deviations or edge case, yeah, routes or possibilities.
Yeah, I think the key thing is we don't have a TSC. If we're planning to have a TSC, then we should talk about that. Otherwise, everything that talks about technical steering committee probably goes away.
Okay, I'm trying to type at the same time, so sorry about this. So David, you were saying that the
Yeah,
TSC
there's
section,
a technical steering committee. Well,
yeah.
well, section 2, and then the other sections refer to a TSC. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Do we have a plan? Are we planning to create one? And if not, probably. I have to admit, I'm wondering if the comment back up to the TAC might be, hey, nobody has a TSC. Maybe we need to modify the draft charter first. And
Yeah, right.
I do think that one thing we ought to do, and there is a step on this, is what is the scope of this particular working group? There may be one on the README, but I think that's at least a key part of this.
Okay, so I see in the chat at the same time, Eva, you want to jump in and tell us what you think? You said scope and primary point of contact. So I will put that in the notes.
Yep. No. Hey, Grob. Good to see you too. No further comment than that. Just that, the sort of minimum things I think the TAC is looking for are definition of scope and a primary point of contact from every working group.
Yep.
More would be great over time, but that's sort of the minimum to get everything moving.
So I would move based on that. The primary points into contact in this case should be Grob and Xavier for this working group. I mean, they're the leads, so that would make sense. As far as a scope, there on the README there is a scope statement, but I think it's I'm not. I think it's broader and probably some overlap. Well, I know. Here, let me just post in the chat the link to the README for the working group. If you look, there is a scope section. I'm not going to try to read it to the group, but if you scroll down and look at the scope section.
We also wrote like a really brief little scope statement in each working group Slack channel description that you can start, use that as a jumping off point.
Oh, that's interesting. Can you copy and paste that into our little notes here?
Gladly.
Okay. Okay, so to get the approval, we agree that we just need to get the scope and primary point of contact added to this charter, and then get approval from the TAC. I see that Jeff has raised a hand.
Yeah, I was just looking at the scope in the charter, and I noticed it has an enumeration of, activities like documentation, testing, integration. I thought it might be good to list like tools there that, implement best practices, like scorecards. If the scope is on the README and then we reference it, that seems good too. But if we're gonna list out things in the charter, I think tools would be a good thing to list as well.
The challenge is there's a separate tools working group.
Yeah.
So I think for tools, I don't think you're necessarily wrong, but then we're gonna have to figure out how we scope those two to be distinct.
Well, it lists documentation, testing, integration, and all that is in reference to best practices. So
Yeah, I remember we already had this debate about the tools. And yeah, I think we said that basically, if I remember correctly, I think we said yes. Let's leave everything tools in the tools working group, and every time we have well, we need to coordinate with them, then we coordinate with them, or we kind of ask them to integrate what we think is necessary, and vice versa. But we kind of wanted to leave everything tools to the tools working group.
I mean, does that mean that all code should move to that group?
I don't think that's the
No.
intent, but that's the,
No.
but
Yeah.
this has always been an overlapping issue.
Sure.
Okay, so yeah, so for this charter, we will get the scope and primary point of contact added to that. We will, so I'm asking this group, all of you, to kind of look out for a pull request on this charter and review it together async, and then after, I think that after a few rounds of review, we will submit it to the TAC. Is that okay?
I mean, that would
Yeah,
be okay.
maybe.
If I may, real quick though, before we move on, I'm
Yeah.
just comparing the scope statement in the README and the scope statement on the Slack. The Slack one has the advantage of being shorter. The scope statement on the README has the advantage of talking about an accessible, identifying and curating an inventory of best practices. So let's see here. And so I'm wondering if we can just do a quick merge of those two statements. README includes this not in Slack. So if you'd permit me to do the dangerous and dubious opportunity of editing on the fly here, we could combine these two things.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So something like, let's see, and you can see it right within the Google text here, is dedicating to first, help identify and curate the best practices. Okay, raising awareness and education. We're raising awareness and education. So we don't have to vote on this instant, but
yeah, I think it's yeah, I think it's a good start. Yeah. Okay.
So maybe we can think around and I don't know, what is there a way that we can look at and suggest offline, because I don't want to try to do all this online.
No, yeah. What we can do is so create a PR with that, and then async and offline we can all jump in and propose adjustments. Okay.
And I would ask everyone to do that before our next call, so we can get this ideally wrapped up in the next 2 weeks. So if you're interested, and able, please comment on the PR, and so we can get this worked quickly, hopefully. And then get back to focusing on helping developers instead of serving industry. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, the next item in our agenda is the OpenSSF Day. Who is talking us through this? David, is it you? Oh, Grob?
Yeah, there is a the Linux Security Summit will be held in June in Austin, Texas this year, and the foundation was able to get some space, so we have allocated a track to the foundation, and they are interested to know if anyone is interested in participating. It sounds like preferably physically, but also virtually in this day of focusing on the OpenSSF. So they'd like each of the working groups to come and talk about what they're doing, current activities and plans to help try to raise some awareness before that conference gets into full swing. Did I miss any details, David or Jory?
I helpfully accidentally unplugged my headphones right at the very end of that description. I think that you got it all, Grob. But if anybody has any questions, please shoot them our way. We're definitely looking to know from everyone if folks who are planning on attending for multiple reasons. We're trying to get some goodies together. We want to get folks together, like for after events and that kind of stuff. So just kind of having a little bit of a head count is very helpful there.
Christine notes she plans on attending. Off the top of your heads, anyone else planning on attending physically or virtually?
I will attend at least virtually for sure, and I am just trying to make plans to see if I can come physically.
I plan to be there physically.
For those who are interested in virtual attendance, I'm working to get more clarity on what that experience is going to be like. And I apologize, I don't know all the answers. We'll be doing whatever the other events are doing. I'm not, unfortunately, not fully briefed on what that is, and I hope to get more answers for y'all by the TAC meeting.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Please consider it. Should be a good event. And the conference overall, the Security Summit is looking very good. I've had a chance to review some of the abstracts for the supply chain piece. There's some really good talks. And just kind of peeked around at some of the other mini summits, and they look pretty good quality.
Say, is the selected sessions about to be announced, Rob?
I know that the supply chain, we had the late entry that we had to go vote. I need to cast my vote actually before I run down to my meeting. I think they'll be done. I don't know the progress of the other things like the vulnerability summit or any of the other little mini activities. I hope soon. I think soon.
Yeah, I think they're going to announce.
Sorry, go ahead, Christine.
I said they were going to announce a lot of them on April 18th, but I think this vulnerabilities one was the one that was the late entry in general. So that one might be a little delayed.
Yeah, so I'm reviewing for the vulnerability ones, and indeed the deadline is the 14th, so Thursday. So and well, yeah, reviewers are a bit late, let's say. so yeah, I guess they will announce that at the end of the week.
Yeah, I submitted a session and hope to attend in person in Austin.
Cool.
Thanks.
Okay. So anything else to say about this OpenSSF Day?
Just a quick note. I clicked on the link and trying to go do the registration for it. It seems to only give you options for virtual. At least it's only giving me only virtual options, even though it's supposed to be in person. So the link might need to be updated somehow. Something to look into for someone.
I'll track that down.
Actually, would Jory be the better person for tracking that one down?
Yeah, probably. So I'm happy to happy to see what that is about.
Thank you, Jory.
Okay. Next item, David, that's for you, the quick guide for developing secure software.
Okay, so this is a proposed new work item. So I've gotten several requests now for the, hey, there seems to be a lot going on. I'm just trying to develop some secure software. Can you give me a one pager? Now they're not asking for all knowledge to be in one page. What they're really, I think what they're asking for is a place to start where, you know, hey, I hear there are other things like salsa and scorecards and training and so on. Give me a place where I can jump off to. So I have, and so I have attempted to create such a thing. Well, for if you're developing secure software, where do you go? I think that um, I can cheat it slightly by having the how do I evaluate software for bringing it potentially in as a separate one pager, but be that as it may, I do think that there's value in having a single homepage where people can go start. So instead of just saying, "Hey, that's an idea," let's see. So I've got here for developers, and then the draft for evaluation. Draft for evaluation. Let's make sure currently. All right. So I don't know if anybody, if anybody's taken a look, but if you can just click on the draft for the developer guide, you know, it's what it's supposed to, it's what it's saying on the tin. It's trying to be a single page that you can go look at, click whatever, and go off to the other things. My current theory is, you know, we need to put it somewhere eventually, maybe on the OpenSSF best practices working, or maybe just on the OpenSSF website itself. But the idea would be a single place to start. A couple of people have already made comments about it, and that's great. Thank you. So, but before we do any work on, I see it. Yes, Grob, I see your hand up. So the question one though is whether or not this is a worthwhile work item to work on. And Grob, go, you had a hand up.
I feel incredibly strongly that this is a work item this group should work on. Those of you that have been here a very long time might remember I proposed such a thing like a year and a half, 2 years ago. So I feel very strongly. So my strong endorsement is yes. I have already participated in the document, and you're watching open source in action. We have two gentlemen that I love very dearly, and we have a little bit of a disagreement, and that's okay. That's how open source works. Yep. We're collaborating to have the best solution for the community. So I would encourage everyone to go in there, express yourselves, comment on the document, make suggestions, and I think I feel very strongly this should be a work product of this group and should belong here.
If I may add, Grob and I disagree on whether or not certain items should be combined or separate. I think we both have strong feelings, and if this is the level of disagreement, life is really good.
Yeah.
Anyone else, please, comments?
Let's just not let it go to Greco-Roman wrestling to decide.
Oh, yeah, I'm voting for the. I'm voting for the. Yes, I want to see that at the OpenSSF.
Oh, throw down in Austin.
Yes, Christine, you have your hand up.
Nobody wants to see me in shorts.
And I was just gonna strongly endorse it as well, only because this is something that I was thinking about doing as part of the OSPO build, how to evaluate and how to kind of develop. And it would be great if it's even like in the OpenSSF day, it could even be a talk.
Yeah, best of 3 falls, baby.
Yeah.
So David, I have a question. Do you think this is kind of similar to the effort around the priority for, the top 10 or like the best practices for Omega? Is this something you think of merging, or do you think this doc would take over, like supersede the Omega Alpha draft that we had, the top 10 priority list of things you should do to secure your development? You remember the
Yeah,
document?
we had worked on that a while ago, but I think the challenge is that was really focused only on alpha, omega. I don't think there's anything wrong with alpha omega deciding that for funding purposes they want to prioritize things differently. So I don't think it has to supersede. But I think that the challenge with that list is that it was really only intended for alpha and omega. And I think we need something for everybody. Now, if it turns out that they do basically the same thing, then I think we should just merge it all. But I think the one that we need most is the one that everyone uses. And if Alpha Omega says, you know, we want to prioritize certain things differently, that's great. If Alpha Omega says, what they did here was great, and we'll just use that, then that's fine too. But I don't think they have to be or necessarily should be the same thing.
They're kind of different purposes. Alpha and Omega is focused more on like a security audit, trying to get a handful of projects up to an acceptable level of criteria, whereas we're focused more broadly on helping developers do a better job, writing better code, using better tools to secure themselves. So slightly different objectives. They're very related, but I don't know that there has to be one, but if we can harmonize them, that'd be nice too. Eric.
Yeah, so I agree with the one pager, but building out the broader, big kind of documentation in this, and I posted this in the chat a little earlier, but CNCF had released a bigger software supply chain security best practices document. I'm wondering how much of that is an overlap, and we need to potentially look at to incorporate here into a broader discussion, and or fill any gaps or extrapolate beyond. Because I agree, this really should be more of a discussion on how a shift left for developers can be approached and better managed to train and establish good practices early on, beyond just the security groups and companies, but really starting to train developers to be the first stop for all security. But I'll put the link back in the meeting notes.
Okay, a lot of people have hand raised. Eva, let's start with you.
Two responses. First, Grob, I really liked how you put that. Turn my video on for a second. The overlap between this working group's charter and Alpha Omega is superficial. I think their scopes are, Alpha Omega's narrower, as you put it, in the impact it wants to have, and this one's focused more on the educational side. But I'd love to see more active communication between both. I think there is a lot of alignment there, and it'd be great to have that. Any way that can be formalized or operationalized, yes. If I can help route requests around or encourage people to cross-join meetings, love it. And the CNCF's Secure Software Factory, SSF, document came out of the CNCF TAG Security, or Technical Advisor Group -security. It was focused narrowly on cloud native development models and tooling. And our purview is necessarily broader, but I would love for us to reference the output of that work and the working group itself. And they might even join the OpenSSF or form some better collaboration, who knows, but more cross-pollination there is good. I just wanted to be clear that the scopes are, again, quite different.
Derek.
Hi, new to the group overall, but usually when I'm doing documentation or trying to point people in a new direction, I always have a one page or something like this. I think it's a great idea. The section I also always include is where to look for more information. And then I link out to those other sources. So yeah, 100% agreed with what everyone is saying. Let's try and keep things in sync. But also there's a lot of great information out there. I know another one of the working groups has a course even that they're putting together. So linking out to some of those things for next steps, I think would be an excellent approach.
Thank you, Derek. Jeffrey.
Thank you. The other thing I think is worth considering is that it's great that the LF has made the 3 training courses that David's worked so hard to create available free. And we're now talking kind of about a one-pager. It seems like there might be also somewhere in the middle, because I think, David, if you'd agree, I think the hours required for those 3 courses are something like between 12 and 20, depending upon the take rate.
14, 18 is what we're saying, but yes, it's around 16 hours.
So I think there's an opportunity to try and carve out something that's more than a one-pager, that a developer that might not invest, a half a week or, time over a period to try and get them at least onto an on-ramp through like a half-day course or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, no?
If I may respond, I think it would still be useful to have the one pager, and
Oh
then
no, I'm not arguing against the one
Yeah,
page.
okay, all right, yeah. Once you have the one pager and all the details, maybe we can work out what's in the middle.
Yep, that's all I'm just trying to tee up. Thanks.
Yeah, and just if you look at the document, you will see that I had kind of the same debate or question. In the document, you will see that I was telling David, hey, perhaps we could add a bit more of that and of that to make it more actionable, etc. But then on second thought, I think that yes, we need the one pager. We have the much longer deep dive, and I agree with you, Jeffrey. I would also love something a bit more in the middle between the two, something more quickly actionable, but still not the deep dive. So let's start with the one pager, the short one pager. David, you have your hand raised, but I don't know if it's an old one or a new one.
No, it's a new one, but it's a quick response. I totally agree on referencing the CNCF's SSCP. In fact, that is one of the items that's linked in the current draft. That's it.
Cool.
Okay, so it sounds like there's general consensus of adding this as a work product. What I would propose, I mean, I don't know if we need to do a formal vote or not, but if that's a general consensus of the working group, I think what the TAC wants is whenever we start a new project to raise it up to the TAC and just say, hey, we're currently planning to add this as a project. Is this okay or not? Because we're trying to prevent the TAC from being blindsided. And sometimes if the working group just creates projects within themselves, there's not enough communication. So I would propose that if the group agrees, which seems to be happening, that either Grob or Xavier raise this up to the TAC. Ava, I know you're already here, so that we can avoid that potential issue right away.
Let's do this. Are there any opposing voices or alternate suggestions? Otherwise, we can consider this as we would like to do this. So any opposing thoughts? All right, so I will take the action item to send the TAC an email Thursday when I get back home, and we'll talk about it at the next call if they are interested to learn more. And I'll respond back to the group. I'll give you an update on what the tax says, how that develops. Any questions or alternative suggestions to that course? All right, thanks team. Looking forward to getting this thing wrapped up. Excellent start, and please contribute.
Okay, next item, David, is you again.
Me
OpenSSF
again.
security guides.
I'm the constant troublemaker. Sorry about that. This one isn't really a call for this working group to do anything special. It's just that I got contacted from the lead of OpenChain. OpenChain historically is it's an ISO standard, ISO IEC standard for ingest of open source software. Historically, they have focused on licensing. However, a lot of the folks who use OpenChain have been concerned about ingest of open source from a security vantage point. So they have created a guide on evaluating the security of software coming into them. There's the draft. They have an original guide. They're working on a draft 2.0. It's not actually part of OpenChain. It's at least currently kind of a supplement, but they would like feedback on it. So I just want to point people, take a look, let them know what you think. And that's all I have to say.
Next item is Jeff, process for package manager best practices guide.
Yes. So as you may recall, a few meetings back, Laurent presented that he had worked with some NPM experts to develop a best practices guide for NPM, and proposed that this group collect these best practices for package managers. So what we've done is we've created a repo, and I have a process there, proposal, that is how these these guides will be published or proposed, RFC period, and then officially published. One of the main concerns also of the NPM authors was maintenance. So I did cover, what we're going to do to maintain it. So Laurent and I will be like administrators or facilitators of the repo, doing things like triaging issues, but not necessarily writing the guides or keeping them up to date. There's a few items there in the process. But the main thing is for the proposal of new guides, to do that, we're going to have like a drafts directory where people can submit a guide that they're working on. And then once it's ready for review, there'll be a review directory, and then we'll send an announcement out to the working group or to the mailing lists and say this document is out for review. Please submit comments in the form of GitHub issues. And then a minimum of a 30-day period where comments can be put in, and they all will need to be addressed before the guide can be like marked as published. And I've actually gone ahead and I converted the NPM guide from Google Doc to Markdown and put it into the drafts folder. So it's really in step 2 on this, even though this is still up in the air. And I even had an example issue. There's a closed issue for where I wrote that it was in progress, which would have been step 1 on the process. Comments now appreciated. Comments in the form of issues appreciated. That's it.
So the goal here isn't to create a package manager best practices guide. It's the process for creating guides from this working group, correct?
Yeah, just to letting everybody know. Jack, you have your hand up.
I might be a bit confused based on that last statement, but I can pass it on to some people that package stuff for next packages to at least look at.
Yeah, so once we have this this process here, we'll also be looking for authors for more guides.
So now I'm very confused. Are we trying to create a guide for package managers, or is this the process for this working group to create guides? I thought it was the latter.
This is the process for this working group's effort to create best package manager guides that go into this repository.
Oh, okay. So this is not a generic how to create a guide in this working group. This is specifically for package
No,
managers.
but if somebody wanted to use it, that would be fine. But yeah, just for this repo, we wanted to have some kind of process around being able to propose these guides and get comments, and then mark them as approved or published.
Okay. Got it. And this will be almost certainly kind of owned by the package manager repos working group that's being formed, or is this still going to be part of the best practices working group, or how do you plan to do
I didn't
this?
know about that one.
Okay. I know about another working group in formation, and part of my confusion is like trying to figure out who's speaking.
Yeah,
Right,
I think
there
Jack
is a-
had the same confusion, but I think we discussed that when we started with the NPM doc, and we said, oh, there is a working group that is going to be formed, but it wasn't at that time. So we said, okay, it's a best practices guide. So, and we are the best practices working group. So let's start it into the best practice working group. So I think it might move to the package manager working group later, but we decided at that time to start it within this work.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a question, Jeff. So I guess that in the doc itself there will be a call for to readers to submit issues into the repo if they see something, if they want to give feedback or.
Yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
in step 4 on the process, the doc can be like once the authors are done, in the draft phase, they move to the review phase, and then we will send out an announcement to this. Well, it was this working group and the mailing list and Slack, and say this has kind of entered the review phase. There'll be a minimum of 30 days for comments to be made in the form of issues in the GitHub repo.
David, your hand is raised.
Yeah. So coming back to the one pager, and presuming that this comes to fruition and there's a bunch of docs created from this, my vision would be the one pager would, if there's actual there would say, hey, for more information about specific package manager, go here. And so the relationship would be the details somewhere else, and the one pager helps people find materials like this when they're ready for use. And I wouldn't automatically assume it moves to the package manager working group, at least initially, because they're just information until the tax says A-OK. They're not officially a working group, and they may want to work on other things first, even though this may be a reasonable thing for them to work on eventually. So I wouldn't stop the train just because there's another working group that's being mooted.
Yeah. By the way, this is exactly what we discussed at that time too. We said, okay, let's move on with that.
Okay.
That's not good. Eva, I see your hand raised, but I don't know if it's an old instance of your hand.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, okay, cool. No worries. Okay, any other question? Yes, Jack, you have a question.
Yes, I'm interested in this this working group for package managers. But where would I find that working group?
I don't know if they are officially formed yet.
They are not.
They officially have an agenda.
So they're not on the OpenSSF. They may not be in the OpenSSF calendar because they're not officially yet part of the OpenSSF. Jory, am I wrong? You can tell me I'm wrong.
You are wrong. They are on the public calendar. Let me, I believe their next meeting is tomorrow. That's Wednesday, the 13th at 6 p.m. Eastern time, US. and that's on the public calendar. They also have a channel in our Slack workspace called securing_software_repos. So you can check them out there, and they're getting a GitHub repo spun up under our org as well, to do their sort of incorporation work. So those are the 3 spaces, and I'll drop links for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if I recall correctly, the usual rule for creating a new working group is they have to meet a certain number of times and have, more than one org. I don't remember the exact details, but basically they're in the process of that. I think their next meeting, either they've already had or their next meeting will fulfill the number of meeting requirements. Jory, again, you probably know the procedural stuff much better than I do. So
Yeah, their next meeting tomorrow will fulfill their 5 meeting requirement.
excellent, perfect.
Cool. Well, if we don't get any feedback on the process, we'll move forward with it. And the NPM guide will be going into like the official review period shortly. And, keep an eye out for that announcement. We're hoping for comments on that guide.
So, and the time that I have for tomorrow's meeting is 6 p.m. Eastern time. Obviously, adjust for your time zone.
Thank you. Cool. So do you have all that, Jack? Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Cool. Okay, we have 10 minutes left and some project updates.
Yes,
David?
I have a key project update. I mentioned this earlier, but it's one of those things that may not be important to anybody else, but it certainly is driving what I do. Because of our courses, our fundamentals course is released on both the LF training platform and on edX. It's actually developed, and the SKF folks also have a copy. I don't want. One challenge is that edX has certain rules about how updates can happen. And so as a result, significant updates of content they want done basically when you look at the backing up times and so on, basically we need to have our updates done by April 17. The LF platform can update whenever, but and we can update for small things like typos anytime. But they really want significant changes done at by particular increments. So I am currently in the process of updating so adding all the material from the 2021 CWE Top 25, which is actually 40 items. And as a stretch goal, I also want to update to the 2021 OWASP Top 10 for web apps. If there's other major changes that you want to see in those courses by then, please, post a pull request or something, but we're going to have to get those in quickly. I've made a number of changes. I'm having non-trivial changes get reviewed, but other reviews are graciously welcome. All changes are posted on GitHub. Questions?
Well, it's a bit a short deadline.
You know it.
Indeed. I would really love to work a bit more in the future to add more content as well to it because, I mean, it is already a very impressive book that you created in the knowledge. But of course, we can always extend it with more. So I was thinking to indeed also dedicate some time, in like Q3, Q4. But at that time, I will first reach out to you to see how you would love to accept topics and material in what form and then so on.
Right, and love to have that engagement. So don't view as April 17 changes can never ever be made in the future. That's not really what's going on. But they want to have changes in well, at least final changes in increments. So this is this for this increment, And so if it's Q3, Q4 anyway, then absolutely let's talk and let's work out stuff. That's great. Glenn, you know this and I know this, but not everybody else know this. The short, the fundamentals course is, aimed to be about 2 days of time. The plus is, and it specifically points to the SKF for, hey, you got more time, you want to do hands-on. Hands-on has many advantages. I'm never opposed to hands-on. The challenge with hands-on is that takes more time. So we very much point to it. And SKF, I guess, is now including at least a version of the course. So, we're all trying to work together for different people's needs, time availability, those sorts of things. And I'm sure we'll keep doing that.
Okay, so please group review the proposed changes. I did it. The link is in the notes.
Yep. And really at this point, I'm looking more for either merge requests or, chat with me and we'll try to work out, but I fully acknowledge the time is short. I can't change the date easily though. So thank you.
Thanks, David. Glenn, you have some updates on SKF?
Yeah, well, on the 1st of April, we did like the soft release of the security knowledge framework, the new module, the training platform module, actually. I also used it in the workshop, secure coding and offensive security at the OWASP Benelux Day. Yeah, and it was actually, very well received by the audience. Now I get some feedback, some bugs that I discovered, so I'm fixing those. Yeah, and hopefully soon I hope to really move from the soft release, merge all the good stuff that we did into the main branch, and then make it also really easily usable for deployment. So.
Okay, then, I see no updates for the inventory or for scorecard, is it right? Okay. In that case, is there anything else that anyone would like to discuss during these 3 minutes we have left? No. Okay, otherwise I can use these 3 minutes to get a coffee before my next meeting. So thank you, everyone. And so please review, well, look out for the PR on the charter, and let's conclude that within these 2 weeks before our next meeting. Thank you, everyone. Welcome again to the newcomers. See you next time. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.